everybody, and welcome to Sunday Brunch. It's RM here, and of course, I have with me today Russ Whitfield. Russ, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. I've had a nice Friday night. There's big boxing matches on Friday, rounded off by Joseph Parker versus Zhilei Zhang, and then Anthony Joshua versus Francis Ngannou. So I had some people over for that. My nephew and my daughter's boyfriend, and it was epic. And all the right people won, so it was good. Parker beat Zhang, which was great, and Anthony Joshua of the United Kingdom obliterated Francis Ngannou, who had made a bit of a splash coming over from MMA and going life and death with Tyson Fury, knocking Tyson Fury over. Some people said that Ngannou won the fight. I think that's a little bit romantic. I think Fury clearly won it a couple of months ago on points, despite the knockdown. But this is what should happen when you put an MMA fighter in with a professional boxer in boxing rules. Joshua destroyed him in less than 2 rounds. Was actually a little bit concerned for his health. Like he Doctor Sleep just turned up, and yeah, Anthony Joshua put Francis Ngannou to sleep. He was unconscious, flat on his back, and I was a bit concerned, but he got up and everything's okay.
Wow, Russ, it sounds like an exciting night. Friday night fights at Russ's.
Friday night fight night, you know it. It used to be a thing actually. Friday night fight night. I used to love it. It used to be on ITV. We only had 3 channels or 4 channels in the UK, or maybe 5, but we certainly didn't have the wealth of them. But there was a thing on ITV called Friday Night Fight Night, and it was brilliant. You had, Nigel Benn and Chris Eubank, Joe Calzaghe. It was that sort of era. But anyway, who's in the chat? Oh, how are you? I should say first of all.
Yeah, I'm doing well, Russ. I am back from work. A very, I could say, uh, 2 weeks of long hours, which were worth every minute of it. But I am tired. I got back yesterday and
Mhm.
I just was wiped out. And I really am still very wiped out from these 2 weeks. And there's been mostly high moments, maybe one or two low moments, but mostly high moments, a very unusual.
Oh, I have to say, I understand why you're so tired with the. I'm surprised you said it online with the high moments when you were video cameraing me snorting cocaine off muscly male strippers in the back room, claiming you were working, and all I could hear was females laughing. You in a club, and then you probably don't remember. You were pretty wired at the time, but yeah, I can see why you're tired, Aram. I'm not gonna lie. There's me just getting drunk watching boxing, and you're like, yeah, I know, great, good times in the capital. What can I say?
Well, Russ, I'm not going to talk about those special moments. Say that I'm glad to be back here on Sunday Brunch,
Mhm.
talking about everything we love about entertainment, with a positive twist to it, Russ.
Mm,
And it is such a pleasure to be talking to you. And obviously, everybody who's here, yes, I wasn't able to do the show for 2 weeks. It was impossible. There was
mm.
no way I could really do the show. But I did just want to say hello to everybody who's here. Russ, it looks like so many of our familiar faces are here. We got Gary Bando Sandwich
All right,
Worthington.
gal.
Hope you are well, Gary, and welcome. We also have Stavros, Russ.
Stavros, hello.
Stavros says, "Hey, Paul, what's up? My second viewing of Dune has Shannon the villainess. Ooh, well, it's interesting, Stavros. I saw Dune twice in one day. I saw it at 1 p.m. in the afternoon, and then I went ahead and saw it at 11 p.m. show in IMAX because the theater is right next to the hotel that I was at, so I could do that. Russ, I went to like a practically a midnight show. That movie ended at 2:30 in the
Yeah,
morning.
you said yeah, it must have been awesome though. Like it's great when you do things like that.
Yeah, it was wonderful, Russ. I can't normally just walk from the theater to my room, but that's
Mm,
exactly what I did. My mother was like, she was still up. She's like, "Was the movie good?" I'm like, "Yeah, it was as good as I saw it at 1 o'clock." Yes, it
mm,
was.
mm, mm.
I had to see it in IMAX, and I enjoyed it seeing it in IMAX. So yes, Stavros, a lot of people are seeing that film over and over again. And hello to Tom Jr. Jackson, my moderator, collaborator, and good friend. Tom, we are all goof people. Says hello. Welcome to Sunday Brunch. Please click the like and subscribe buttons. So glad to see you, Tom Jr. Jackson. And Mario Lopez is here, Russ.
Oh yeah, Mario texted me yesterday because Wendy and I are going to Portugal, I think in May. Um, and he was showing me his collection of Warhammer. I think it's Warhammer figures. You know, like the toy soldiers. And he was showing me his book collection, and it was quite strange. Or you remember the other day we were talking about Dragonlance, right?
Yes.
Well, on Mario's shelf, his bookshelf, right? He's got my books, and then next to them were all the Dragonlance books. I said, Rita
Yes.
and I were talking about this like only the other day, you know. So yeah,
Absolutely. Wow.
amazing collection, and I'm looking forward to hooking up with Mario and boring the pants off Wendy as we discuss the genius auteur that is Zack Snyder.
Absolutely. Wow. Had no idea you were a Dragonlance fan, Mario. I knew there was a reason why you kept coming back here. We are kindred spirits. I love Dragonlance, and obviously, I can't wait to hear more about your collection from Russ. It is so great that we have members meeting one another and looking at each other's collections. This is so much fun, Russ. I'm so
Mhm.
glad to see you here this morning as well, Mario. And Gary Vanda Sandwich Worthington waves hello again. Dr. Sleep is here. Says, good afternoon, everyone. And guys, don't forget to check out Russ's Amazon storefront to pick up his books, the Gladiatrix series, and more. Check it out on the Amazon storefront for Russ. Joe Tyson is here, Russ.
Ah, Big Joe, morning. I'm glad you're here, man. I'm glad you caught it with the time change because it's earlier than usual for me. It's only 20 to 3 here, so
Yes, and I personally had forgotten about it, and I was looking at the time, and I'm like, "It's supposed to only be 8 o'clock," and I looked at the time was later, and I realized that we sprung ahead, and, I don't particularly care for daylight savings because what it does, at least I think one of the reasons why we have it, is so you don't like, it's not so dark when you're going to school, but it's still dark here. If you live in New York, it's still dark anyway, so we don't really lose that. It's just,
oh, yeah, we have here. It's getting lighter. Normally, like if we were doing the show at 5, in the winter it's pitch black by 4:30, but it's fine here. But who else we got? It's great to see you, Big Joe.
Yes, we got a performing artist. Good morning,
There
y'all.
he is, best looking man on YouTube.
Good to see you, a performing artist. And that old Yorkshire geek is here.
Yes, they have sprung forward, mate. We were just literally just talking about that. And yeah, it was funny. I was talking to a young actress yesterday. I think she's 24 or yeah, 24 she is. And I was reminded of the old Yorkshire geek because I was telling her about this project and I said that these bands you've probably never heard of: Iron Maiden, Saxon, Judas Priest. Da, 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 da." She said no. Saxon was the first gig I ever went to. My mum and stepdad are really into heavy metal, and of course Saxon are from Barnsley, which is I don't know if Old Yorkshire Geek considers Barnsley proper Yorkshire because it's South Yorkshire, and my one of my girlfriends, Joanne from the '90s, was from North Yorkshire and only considered North Yorkshire proper Yorkshire. I don't know, but yeah. So Saxon, Barnsley, the Barnsley Big Teaser.
Wow. That's good to know. So glad that you are here, that old Yorkshire geek. Guys, I hope you're checking out that old Yorkshire Geeks channel on YouTube. So many amazing things on there. Stubble McShave is here. Hi, Stubble.
Starbull, honoured by your presence, my dude.
And I also want to say hello to Wex Wuther, who says, Russ Artum, what do you guys think about the idea of the auteur?
Do you want to go ahead, RM?
Yeah, I think we definitely need that, and I think that I'm trying to think. I think the last film, maybe some of the last films that I've seen that fall into that category, is the guy who directed Poor Things, or the woman. I don't know if it's a man or a woman who directed Poor Things. I'm not quite sure whether you saw that film, Russ.
No.
But it certainly is created by what I consider an auteur. It was just so magical and visually stunning, but I also think that Nolan Ryan is a bit of an auteur too. Russ,
hmm
what are your thoughts?
Um, so in recent decades, my two who I consider auteurs, and you probably the first guy you probably doesn't spring to mind because he makes horrible movies apparently, but he makes horrible movies that I love. Is Paul W.S. Anderson. So
Yes.
I think part of the sort of auteurist vision is their signature, their visual signature, their cinematic signature, their tone, their feel. right? That's to me sort of marks out an auteur where you can watch a Paul W.S. Anderson movie, be it Resident Evil or Aliens versus Predator or Event Horizon or The Musketeer, and you know that it's a Paul W.S. Anderson film. Um, and the same can be said for Zack Snyder. I think he's a 21st century auteur. Clearly, I'm biased. Everybody knows I'm biased on him. But when you're watching Rebel Moon, or you're watching 300, or you're watching um, Dawn of the Dead, or you're watching Rebel Moon, you can absolutely tell that this is a guy with a vision, and they have those flourishes, those touches. So yeah, and it was interesting listening to Robert Meyer Burnett's show, because I'm really happy actually that Rob's doing. He seems to have got his Vivra back for doing Robservations, and Robservations is now by far my favorite live stream. I don't listen to any other live streams anymore for reasons I've discussed, but he was talking about auteurs only the other day, and obviously Rob's a bit of a film nerd, and he was going into all of this stuff. But one of the things he did say, and I was very encouraged by this, we seem to be coming back to a period now that's a bit like the 1990s, as Hollywood, to go with the boxing analogy, Hollywood and of itself is having a standing 8 count at the moment. It's adopted completely the wrong tactics in this particular fight, right? It's decided it's going to turn southpaw with its agenda, and people have turned away from that, and Hollywood has now been knocked out, not for the count, but it's getting a standing 8 count. That then creates a vacuum, and that vacuum will and is being filled by smaller movies that have mass appeal. So we could be entering a time much like there was. Everybody has used this analogy, haven't they, of the 21st century, the 2020s, as the sort of late 60s, early 70s film renaissance. I can't believe I said that with an accent. Renaissance. Get me? What a dick. Anyway,
Okay.
so there was there was that period. You had all the Hollywood sword and sandals and westerns and all those things that people talk about as the death of the studios, and then you had Lucas and Spielberg and Scorsese and all those guys that come. Maybe we're going to enter that time period again. So it's an exciting time. Like I have spent and you have spent a lot of time now watching movies that nobody in this sphere wants to talk about because they're good, and that's what we're hoping to do. But yes, Wex, auteurs, I think the word in and of itself can somehow smell of pretension, but like I said with Zack Snyder, in a way, what's his name, Bruckheimer, Jerry Bruckheimer, what's the director that works with him, Armageddon, his name's gone out of my head, Transformers, um, Michael Bay.
Hmm.
Michael Bay's an auteur. You watch Transformers, you watch Armageddon, you watch Bayhem, as it came to be called. The guy's an auteur. But he's not a pretentious auteur, of which pretentious is the wrong word. Uh, an artistically ambitious auteur that you would expect to be given that title. But there are auteurs in all sorts of genres. Is Cameron an auteur? I'd say he probably is. He's a fucking genius. Anyway, that's for sure. The films that man has given us over his career, yeah, amazing. But I
And
hope that answers the question, Wex.
I also wanted to add, and he's got a very similar name, but it's a different director, Paul Thomas Anderson,
Hmm.
who I'm a huge fan of, especially his last film, Licorice Pizza,
Hmm.
and Boogie Nights, two films that I think were just unbelievable.
Mm.
To the list, I think he's such a fantastic screenplay writer as well. And on top of everything, and also Edgar Wright, who
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of. Last Night in Soho, one of his last films. I like that sort of film where it has a lot of symbolism, and he talked about how he made the film, and just a film that looked like it was a lot of fun to make, but you had to use your imagination. You're living in two different time periods, and I
Mm.
love films where you go into different time periods in that way. And this one was a horror film, Last Night in Soho, but you had to kind of stretch your imagination if you could try time travel. where would you go? Why not the swinging 60s in London? Why not? Wouldn't you want to be there during that time? And I think, I know a lot of people do not like the Barbie film, but Greta Gerwig's effort to make that film, that was not a simple gesture. That was an enormous undertaking by her with so many elements in it, and it was very crafty. I have to say, from an artistic point of view alone, it was quite impressive. I don't think it would beat out Poor Things, which is the one that I think right now is just unbelievable. Russ, have you seen Poor Things?
No, but I did want to add to what you were saying. Wasn't Edgar Wright in the frame for doing Ant-Man? And then they decided that they wanted somebody more corporately aligned with what Marvel wanted to do. And I kind of, yeah, I've never really made mine Marvel. I've said this all along. I know who the characters are. I've watched the films, but it's not close to my heart. But when they were in that sort of period, in their pomp, or maybe just starting to go down the other side of thing. No, no, no. Ant Man came out before Endgame, didn't it? Yes. So they were in this like amazing period. And they had James Gunn, who's an author in and of himself, if you want to label him as that. Then you had Edgar Wright coming along, and wouldn't it have been interesting to see if Marvel had adopted that approach instead of the sort of corporate, and not allowing directors to direct, as we found out with Chloe Zhao and the lady that directed the Marvels, and like the film doesn't turn out great, and we then hear from Bob Iger there wasn't enough supervision. So it's pretty clear that it's almost like being a television director at this point. You come in and you're given what to do, the action is taken away from you, the character, you're just sort of there to supervise. And I wonder what would have happened to Marvel if they'd have gone the other way. Guess we'll never know.
We'll never know. It's something to think about, Russ. Certainly, and a good point. And the director for Poor Things is Yorgos Lanthimos.
Mhm.
He is Greek, and Poor Things is a spectacular example of what I would say is a current film now that's up for best film. It's not going to win. It's not going to win because it's going up against Oppenheimer.
Mm,
However, it is a triumph. It's a masterpiece when it
mm.
comes to production design and execution. And I haven't seen a film like that in ages. uh but it is very interesting to see what a direction things could have gone in if only certain things were given the right chance that they deserve, Russ. If
Mm.
only artists or proper auteurs were given a chance to go ahead and do this. And as I said to you before, Russ, they can make any type of film they want, but give us the ones that we are expecting. And then you can go ahead and experiment. Go ahead and experiment. Make an
Mm.
experimental film, but people know what they like, and there's nothing that can really be done about that. The audience knows what it's fond of and will always choose that, no matter how much is trying to be pushed on them, right, Russ?
Yeah, I
Um,
think I think so. I think, and you mentioned Christopher Nolan, another auteur, and I think actually Rob was talking about this, and someone in the chat, it was Wex was saying he listened to that show as well. Um, you know, Nolan's like the sort of example of what's brilliant and what's not so brilliant about auteurs, because sometimes he can disappear up his own bum a little bit, and he can be a little bit too clever and a little bit too uh, esoteric, if you like, and the films only make sense to him, and so on and so forth. But that's not to take away from the guy's laudable genius. I mean, the guy is a filmmaking genius, and I certainly am not in a position to criticize Chris Nolan. But Rob's made movies, and he did make that observation.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Russ. I certainly You're right about Christopher Nolan, and we are not criticizing any of those directors right now. We're merely stating certain things we notice about them.
Mhm.
You know, Oppenheimer was no small undertaking as well.
Mm,
That film alone, I think, was just so mesmerizing. Irene is here. Hello, Irene. I love your avatar.
35 days, Irene. Come on. Come
Well
on.
done. Come on, Irene.
That's
Yeah,
brilliant. I'm so proud of you, man. That is
absolutely.
awesome.
Gosh,
Absolutely awesome. Really,
Irene.
honest to God. Really well. It's such a so happy.
Mhm.
I'm literally welling up. That's so good news. That is such good news, Irene. Really well done. I'm happy for you. I'm happy for your family. That's brilliant. Well done, mate.
Agreed, Irene. We are so proud to hear this news, and do please keep coming back and letting us know your progress. It does mean something to us. We care about you,
Mm.
and we are happy to hear this. So glad you are here as well. Also, Joe Tyson says he doesn't care for daylight saving. Thank you very much. Thank you for saying that. Jane H. Edits is here.
Oh,
Good morning.
hello.
Hi, Jane H. Edits. Good to see you here. Who else is here this morning? We want to say hello to. You all have so many good comments here about Nolan Ryan. Did I say that again? I keep saying Nolan Ryan. Um, uh, Nolan Ryan is on my mind. I promise you guys, I never even met this man, and yet I can't stop saying Nolan Ryan. It's getting a little embarrassing. People are calling me out all over the place for that. I have baseball on my mind, and apparently Nolan Ryan. Yeah, I'm. I don't know why I keep saying that, but yeah, I have Nolan Ryan on my mind, Russ, and I can't seem to get him out of my head. Um,
Well,
uh,
that's the same when Kylie Minogue came out with that song. I couldn't get her out of my head either. There's a shot of Kylie Minogue in that video. She's wearing that outfit that makes you think you can see more than you can actually see. And there's like a drum beat. And she just shakes her bum a little bit, just boom, boom, like that. And I was like, oh my god, that is literally one of the sexiest things I have ever seen. So
Mhm.
yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, Kylie she's going to be sexy till she dies. She's one of
Hmm.
those women.
Much like
She,
yourself, Aram.
oh wow, Russ, thank you so much for
I'm
saying that.
spitting facts, mate.
I do appreciate that, Russ.
Mm.
And Irene says that she watched Poor Things and she liked it a lot. Yeah, Irene, it was very different, wasn't it? Stavros talks about Rebel Moon, um, and they lied that they had more views than Barbie. What a desperate move by Snyder. Well, I don't know which one had more views. I imagine that Rebel Moon was going to be on more screens than Barbie ever could. Um, so that's I think a different matter altogether. However, I think there are so many fans of Rebel Moon, Stavros, including myself, and we want to see the next one.
Yeah.
So, there
Yeah,
is
just to address that, a lot of this stuff has come from an interview that Snyder did on the Joe Rogan Experience, and I think Zack Snyder, when he does these interviews, is often his own worst enemy. And I, having a conversation with Zack Snyder is hard. Like this guy's creativity is on a different level, and when you're watching that, I'm halfway through the interview at the moment. And what happens with Zack Snyder is a little bit like Rob. Actually, he'll start a sentence and then he'll change the subject in the middle of the sentence because he has another idea and another idea and another idea. So when he made that Barbie comment, he was talking about, um, you know, as you said, Aram, the amount of people that watched it would have been more than Barbie, right? Because it was on Netflix and Barbie wasn't on Netflix, and so on and so on and so on. So it's possible that more people watched it, right? When you want to attack Zack Snyder, all you got to do is watch a Zack Snyder interview. The drinker and all that lot have been having a field day pretending that Zack Snyder's the only ever person who's committed Batman to film where has Batman killed people and therefore Snyder doesn't understand Batman. Oh, fuck those guys, really. But he does let himself open for this sort of stuff. So it's a fair criticism, Stavros. Um, yeah, it's a fair criticism. He is his own worst enemy. What can I tell you? But I think he's just enthusiastic, and if you listen to the guy talking, yeah, he's blah, 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 blah. And the whole thing with the Joe Rogan interviews actually, um, they're not guarded. They're not like an interview you'd sit down and do with the Hollywood Reporter. It's just guys drinking coffee, shooting the shit. They were talking about golf swing and why I don't know, but it come up, and then they were showing YouTube clips of this Japanese kid that can hit a ball like a bullet and all that. So it's like if people took what I said here and you could clip me and you could make me appear however you want, and you could use whatever arguments of the things that I have said in the past or you've said in the past or anyone has said in the past, and take that bit that you want to be wrong or right or correct or true and put it out there. And you can't deny it. That's what you said, but the context around it is slightly different. That's what I would say to that.
Yeah, that's a very interesting comment, Russ, and certainly it's something to think about. And I agree with you. It's on more screens because it's been on like available for so long. So I don't know, but it is something to think about. And Doctor Sleep mentions, did anybody know why yesterday's member chat has disappeared? I don't know. I know it's private right now, but I don't know why it was
Get
made private.
our with the insider information.
Yeah, well, I still do have access, at least right now, and I looked and it was made private, but I was not told that. As you guys know, I only stream on technically speaking, I stream on 2 days. I'm trying to get it down to 1 day live,
Mhm.
but, certainly, I'm sorry, Doctor Sleep, that you weren't able to watch it. Yeah, I don't know, Tom. All I know is it was made private, and I just looked in the system, and it says it's private. So if he made it private, chances are it's not going to be made public. And I'm sorry, Doctor Sleep. But yeah, I Russ, I agree with you that observations is what got me started, even talking about entertainment more because I enjoy talking about entertainment and I think it's
Mm,
really important. And I think entertainment is I think that I had always thought that once we saw Sex Lies and Videotape, that would have transformed the way movies were made, but it didn't really do it in the way that I thought. What it really kind of led to was YouTube. YouTube
mm.
was the one that seems to kind of have transformed the way entertainment is made or even spoken about in a way that I don't think any of us could have imagined. So
Well, I think it must have been, what do they call it, when a perfect storm? It was the perfect storm at the perfect time for this sort of YouTube. Okay, so back there was the unspecified virus of unknown origin. There was that period. It was also a period where people were starting to notice that their favorite properties were perhaps not being treated with the love and care that one would expect. And that sort of year period of that time when we were all forced to stay at home, that's when it took off. Certainly, that's when it took off for me at any rate, because I certainly didn't bother with YouTube, and now it's all I watch. So there you go.
yeah, it's something to think about, and, if I had more time, I would be watching more YouTube. As you know, Russ, my time has become very limited, so much so that I couldn't do the show for 2 weeks, but I certainly do enjoy I've actually gone back many times and watched specific episodes of Observations,
Hmm.
that I like, so that does say a lot about the show that when you're going back to watch episodes that you liked already, a live show, it does say something, I think, about the quality
No,
of the
I
show.
love that show because in a way, not even in a way, like he's more. I know this is called positive fandom, but Rob is like insanely positive, and he desperately wants things to be good. And Rob's a guy that will change his opinion when presented with evidence. If he doesn't agree with something or doesn't like something, and someone will point something out, and he was, oh, I didn't think about it like that. And I love that he has this. I was going to write him a letter. Funny enough, I was like so inspired by what he's been doing lately. I thought, yeah, maybe I'll send one in. But yeah, I love that show. It's my favorite show, and I'm always upset when I wake up and there isn't an episode. I'm like, oh. Uh,
Yeah, and I don't want him to ever stop doing that show. I mean, I know it's his decision, but I've told him, I'm like, please don't stop doing observations, please. No matter what. So Stavros mentions that Poor Things was a surprise to him because Mark Ruffalo's aura and charisma was greater than he thought. That's interesting.
mm.
Stavros, when somebody's cast doing these casting agents who we don't really talk very much about, but they do their job is not an easy one to find the right person for these roles. And I think the lead actress who's won her Golden Globe, I think she also won a BAFTA. She's going to do well this year. Um, Mario talks about George the Giant Slayer live streams are good too.
I haven't
Um,
seen those, Mario. I will check that out. Thank you for the recommend.
yeah, thank you. Um, so Wex says that he was listening to Rob about it, Otters, and he disagreed what he had to say. The director can't be the author of a movie if he didn't write it. The others who work on it deserve credit. Yeah, I mean it's a collaborative effort, Wex. Let's be honest about it. In some cases, I understand the conflict there, and a lot of people have questioned that as well.
I think you have to accept that. if you're writing a book, it's one thing. If you're writing a screenplay, it's another thing. And I've always thought this, and said this. When you write the end on your screenplay, and then you producers and directors come on board, it stops being your story and it becomes their story, and they will want to make changes to it, and they will have their own ideas, and it's not your job then to it's your job then to deliver what they want. So I think that's where he's coming from, Wex. It's like, um I'm trying to think of of some examples. Basically the director will come along and say, no, I think it needs to be like this. And you don't really have a choice. You can argue and say, look, I don't think this because, but ultimately the director's the one carrying the can. The director's the one that everybody goes to about everything, from the script through to the sandals that the centurion is wearing in scene 3. That guy is in charge of everything. So
Yeah, and
um
another author that I didn't mention might be Spike Lee. I think that his films were, for that era, and especially in New York. If you grew up in New York, if you went to, a traditionally black school in the United States,
mm,
then you would relate to a lot of his films as well.
mm,
And I think that he captured a moment of time, especially in Brooklyn, New York, that was happening. And, that was very special that he was able to do that with his films. He likes to kind of capture these cultural moments. And oftentimes, Russ, what makes it even more remarkable is that he ends up writing these features and
mm.
starring and directing. Like it just seems so incredible that a person will do all that.
Well, that's Autourus, isn't it? Because he's written it and he's directed it. It's singularly his vision. But a lot of directors can't write, um, or don't want to write, but they will have ideas. I think the most upsetting thing as a writer is when the director does, just completely rewrites your story and makes your story into something different. It's always a little bit upsetting. I worked with a director called Zachary Adler, is an American dude, and he was brilliant because he just said, "Well, wouldn't it be funny if this happened?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's great. So we'll put it in the screenplay then." Like at no point did Zach ever say, "Oh, I need to do a pass on this." He would just have ideas and, "Can you work this in? Can you work that? Well, no, what about that? Oh, I think this scene's too violent. Can you take that out?" It was brilliant working. I wish that film had gotten made, but they lost the rights to it, which was really annoying.
I think
But
it
there we
is.
go.
No, no, that's important to mention, Russ. And yeah, Old Yorkshire Geek mentions that Edgar Wright left over that old chestnut creative differences. And
Mm.
Tom mentions that they're taking the Barbie movie on tour this summer. That is going to be so much fun, Tom. I'm going to have to go ahead and watch it and, wear pink. I can't help myself. Jamin D is here. Hi, Jamin.
The
And
metal horns back at you, man.
so is Thalia Meyer, all the way from Germany. Happy Sunday to you, Thalia.
How's it, Thalia?
I hope you're doing well, Thali. It's so good to see you. All right. Well, I see the $64,000 question, Russ, which we definitely were going to talk about today, and almost
Mhm,
can't not talk about it because
mhm,
it's so spectacular. I only just watched it today.
mhm.
Shogun, which has been phenomenal. Dr. Sleep said it's perfect. I actually sent you a message that literally said, what did it say? In the message, I had said, I'm blown away how perfect Shogun is. And
Facts.
you were like, it's fucking mint. I guess we could say that. It's fucking
Yeah.
mint. Russ, I didn't know what to expect from this because remember, we're all, for many of us who are here, not everybody, are, kind of going off of these 70s, 80s miniseries that we've known our whole lives and pretty much have depended on to give us these stories, these remakes of these stories that are just so astounding. I was expecting a great show, but I wasn't expecting this level of excellence, Russ. I'm just astounded by how beautiful it looks. And certainly the screenplay is wonderful. The casting is wonderful. I feel like I've just stepped into the story in real life. What about you, Russ?
I'm so impressed with Shogun. It's literally one of the best things I've seen in absolutely years. It's not getting enough attention. It needs more attention. This is the new Game of Thrones. It's pretty obvious by the even like the way that they set it up. Like at the beginning, the beginning title was a very Game of Thronesy, with all of the intrigue and all of that stuff. Um, Cheek to jowl, man. It's just awesome, and it just gets more and more and more awesome. I said in the same text exchange to our just now, like I was devastated at the end of the third episode. Like I just, I want to watch. I want to watch more, and when we're accustomed to binging, I just love that show so much. I can't say enough good things about it, and it's interesting as well when viewed as a companion piece to the 1980 81 with Richard Chamberlain and Toshiro Mifune in it, because they're the same but they're different, and those differences are marked. And it, for me, in a way, it makes the experience of both of them all the richer for the comparison and contrasting of those two takes on essentially, what's not essentially, it's exactly the same story.
Yeah, it is, and I think what's also very, compelling about it is the fact that we just don't have enough programming like that, and people wanna know these stories, and I one thing that comes to mind is a video game called The Ghost of Tsushima, which
Yes.
was incredibly popular in 2020, and it was made by, let's say, Westerners, Western d game and development team
Mm,
made Ghost of Tsushima, and there was a lot of controversy surrounding it at the time because of this nonsense about how you have to be from that area to make it. And it became a huge hit, not just in Japan, but worldwide. One of the best games ever put out. They used, they were inspired by filmmaking from Akira Kurosawa to
hmm
do it. Of course, it's set in the 1200s, which is
hmm
hundreds of years before
Shogun, yeah.
Shogun takes place. However, the sentiment of it all and the desire for games of high quality, specifically with the culture of Japan in it, is apparent. People want to see these things. They want to have these experiences. They want to see a show like this. And certainly, this was, just such a groundbreaking, popular show. When it came out in the 80s, Russ, everybody was watching this. There was no one didn't see this. Was at a time when people watched miniseries and everyone was watching it. Everyone. And I
Mm.
think this is what's going to happen to Shogun. I think, although it's on, is it on Hulu? Is it on Hulu? Um,
I don't know. Let's just say that we don't have it in the UK, so I've watched it on my TV box, my dodgy German box. So I don't have these American things, but I don't know what it's on, to be honest. Oh no, FX. It's an
FX.
FX thing. Yeah, that's right.
Well, Russ, it's pure excellence. It looks like they spent millions and millions of dollars on the show, Russ. It looks like incredibly expensive, incredibly authentic,
Mm,
perfect camera angles, perfect acting, perfect lines, perfect lighting. That I talked to you about that part where the guy gets boiled alive. That was even terrifying. We
mm.
saw so much of this in this adaptation for 2024 that honestly, I don't want them to ever end whatever they're doing. I'm sure it's ended already, but a certain limited number of episodes. But
Mm.
Russ, I could watch this forever.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's one of those things, isn't it? This is going to end. It's going to end in 10 episodes. I mean, there are sidequels, I guess, like King Rat that Clavel did at his Asian saga, but you're not going to get, what happened to Blackthorn at the end of Shogun 2. Um, but that's a very salient point you bring up about the guy who gets boiled alive, because it's the one scene that everyone remembers, right? It's a really shocking scene. So in the 1980 version, with Richard Chamberlain, they take the guy out, they boil him alive, and you just see, Yabu Sama just sort of watching, and you think, well, they're just cruel. I mean, it wasn't that long after the Second World War, and there was issues with how prisoners were treated and all that, and Japanese people had a bit of a reputation for laying the torture on people. Why did Yabu do this? Why didn't he just have his head chopped off and what have you? Because in the 80s version, they wanted it to be very true to an unique point of view. So the decision was taken, and because I've been reading up on it, like when you get nerdy about stuff, and I thought I really want to find out about this. So the decision was taken that we, the audience, would learn things as Blackthorn learned them. So when everyone's talking around him in Japanese, you don't know what's going on, and nor does Blackthorn. So, but like it's the famous one. Everyone knows what Wakari Mas and Wakari Masen, right? Everyone knows what that means
Yeah.
from that. Yeah, exactly, from that show, right? Wakari Maska, yeah, from that show. So, but in the 2024 version, yeah, because what they have decided to do is they're going to give you both sides. They're going to give you Blackthorn's side, but they've gone in hard on the political intrigue in the Japanese and the council at Osaka and all of that. So you get subtitles basically, and you can follow the story as to what they're doing, and it becomes just when they're going to torture that guy to death. One of the samurai is talking about it, and he says, like Yabu is just fascinated with the moment of death. He wants to, he can't, he loves that moment between life and death, and as the person dies, it absolutely fascinates. It's almost sort of hinted he gets off on it, you know. So that's why he executes him in this horrible, horrible way. And ultimately, the same samurai says to Yabu after, so how was it? And he goes, it's just I thought these barbarians would die differently to us, and they would face death in a different way, but it's just the same. It's just screaming, and then he died, and it was a bit crap. And that just gives you an insight into this guy's character and why he does what he does, and all of that stuff. So it's fascinating, man. And it was a real that scene. Like you remember I was saying, like a companion piece.
Yes.
That's like a really good example for me of that, right? You don't understand that side of Yabu's character in the original one, but you do now understand it in here. But this isn't them spoon feeding you information and making it all easy for you. It's just a different take, and it had to be different. It had to be, couldn't be exactly the same. And yeah, oh my god, and I just love it. I just love this show so much.
Everybody is so good looking in the series.
Hmm.
Almost every time you see somebody, they almost take your breath away. And I always told you that I watch those shows where, it is fantasy. It's an Asian fantasy where everybody has very, very long hair and they're kind of flying through the air. And as they fly, their hair flies around with them.
Mm,
And, there's a love story, where the men are very attractive, the women are very attractive. And what I think is really interesting is that I'm falling in love with this series. Nobody's flying around, Russ.
mm,
It's just the brilliance and the excellence of this story, and like a shot here of one of the characters. You're just completely intoxicated with these characters and the people. They're very attractive,
mm,
Russ, and I think that is also something that I really wanted to see. I needed to see this. I needed to make sure, honestly, Russ, that the people were depicted as attractive as they are. I didn't want to see kind of a watered down version of these, incredibly attractive people. I wanted to see the beauty of it all. And we are
mm,
seeing some stunning beauty in the series that it's breathtaking even. Um, to see what the way that they're portraying it. I did just want to say Mario says that Rob and Rob's observations is great because he's kind of a middle ground between the sides of the culture. He's that middle ground person. He's also an industry professional, as you said, Russ, who's been around the block for a long time. So
yeah, and I think his middle ground, Mario. I think it's genuine, in a way that some other shows have not have lost their verisimilitude uh, to quote Rob. I just think that Rob's a straight shooter. He just tells you what it is. And I know that Rob constantly bitches about Star Trek, because that's a thing that he's passionate about, and that's close to his heart. And it's become a meme almost on his show now when he goes off on one about Star Trek. But that aside, um, I don't always agree with Rob's takes, but Rob's takes are always so thoughtful. And there's never any Star Trek aside. There's never any vitriol in what Rob is saying. He just has a take on something, and he'll share it with you. And I love him for that. I love those shows, and I'm always disappointed when there isn't one.
yeah, I am too. As I said, I haven't been able to watch them recently, but when I had time, I was watching them religiously every day.
Mm,
Marco says I can't get through the Dune film, so Marco was kind of disappointed. Some people have not been too happy. with how Dune is turned out. And as I said with you before, Russ, Dune is not a perfect series. It's good. It's a good film. As I said in IMAX, I enjoyed it very much. But it for me, it didn't necessarily hit all the points that I would have liked it to.
Mm.
Stubble is mentioning Masters of the Air was good, but the storyline was not strong enough to keep his interest. That's very interesting. He says that it should have had a binge release. You know, Stubble, I think you make a good point. I think some of the parts where you're kind of left in a cliffhanger for the next week are almost unbearable. That's something to think about going forward. And Stavros talks about he likes Campia, and he says that he uses the fandom to enhance the experience. Interesting. Um,
Do you know I don't watch his shows, and maybe I should, but I've never really watched anything of his, and I don't know why. And he's been going for years, hasn't he? But he's never in my things to watch card.
Yeah, and John Campia's show has changed quite a bit over the past few years,
Hmm.
and of course, it is true that a lot of, I believe, a lot of the success of the John Campia show is related to his cast of people, which do include Robert.
Mm.
So there is that. And Stavros says that Shogun is just a masterpiece that should have been Mortal Kombat. It's like Johnny Cage got ported to Scorpion and Sub Zero Clans. Yeah, um, everybody was expecting excellence from Mortal Kombat. Um, I don't know how you feel about it. I know some people are who are super fans of Mortal Kombat may not have been that happy with it. I'm not even quite sure if that's what you're saying, Stavros. But Shogun really does show us what you can achieve. I think that it's amazing. Irene talks about how it's so gorgeous. Ghost of
It
Tsushima,
is,
yes.
even though she's talking about Ghost of Tsushima. I was thinking about Shogun. Even the costumes that they wear with the little symbols on them, and all of that stuff. It's just everything looks so real and authentic. And I'm no expert on samurai, so I could be completely wrong, but they just look so awesome. They
Oh, it's
just look
beautiful.
awesome.
Yeah, it's
Um,
good. It looks good. Retro Nerd Girl's here, Roz. Hi, Retro Nerd
oh, hey,
Girl.
Retro, my resident crush. Haven't seen you for ages. Hope you're doing okay, lovely.
Says, hey, Sunday brunchers. I missed you guys. Hope all is well with everyone. Thank you so much. Yeah, we're doing well. So good to see you, Retro Nerd Girl. Such a pleasure. Um, and oh yes, Stubble was saying where you can watch Shogun there. Um,
Disney Plus. Okay.
Mario says Shogun shows how Portugal. Oh yes, it does. I hadn't thought about that,
Mm.
Mario. Shogun shows Portugal. Were they the masters of the seas at the time, Russ? In what era is this? 1600s. Were they the masters of the sea?
I think there was some contention between the Portuguese and the Spanish and the English and the Dutch at that time. But yeah, Mario was saying to me on text yesterday, like he's just upset because like no one's talking in Portuguese because the whole thing would be then in Portuguese, right? Because that's what Blackthorn is speaking to Mariko and the priests. So they went English. They didn't go full authentic with and have the whole thing in subtitles. But yeah,
Yeah, exactly. That's something to think about. And thank you, Mario, for reminding us the importance of that. It's not that I'd forgotten it about it. It's just that I'm not quite sure. I don't even remember, Russ, if in the 80s version they talked too much about Portugal having that influence. And
yeah, absolutely they do. The story is exactly the same. And I think one of the things that this show's always going to have against it, or not against it. That's I'm trying to think of the best way to basically, as good as Sonada is, he isn't Toshiro Mifune, and as good as the actor that plays Rodriguez is in this new version, he isn't Jonathan Rhys Davis. That guy just owns that show, and he's not in it for much, but everybody remembers that character from the 80s. And this guy, the Rodriguez character, in some ways is better because he sort of fulfills the role of Rodriguez, which is quite important, but not that important. Whereas, Jonathan Rhys Davis absolutely dominates every scene he's in, and it's not scenery chewing. He's not overacting. He's just awesome. He's just awesome. That was one of his first roles, and then the guy, he's still acting today. He's become a legend, and of course, when I watched it as an older person, because I only watched it recently, actually, the 1980s one, y- things that I didn't pick up on, I guess, when I wasn't, and I wouldn't say that I'm film savvy particularly these days, but I do notice certain things, and the presence of Toshiro, I, it's just unbelievable. He has this presence that nobody else, not nobody else, but so few people can muster when they're on screen. And as awesome as Sonada is, he's not Mifune, and that's not a fair comparison. It's not a fair comparison. Um, but yeah, the Rodriguez actor, he's somehow more fitting because he's not as scene stealery as Jonathan Rhys Davis. But yeah, it's great. It's great. These are tiny, 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 tiny nitpicks. For the way that Toranaga is depicted in this Sonata is doing an eminently fantastic job.
Absolutely. Guys, make sure you check out Retro Nerd Girl's YouTube channel. And also, Gary says that Yabu is his favorite Japanese actor. Good to know. And Tom,
Hmm.
I'm going to check out what you sent me. Stubble says both the 80s and 2024 changed things from the source material. They just changed different things. Well, thank you, Stubble, for letting us know that. And some of you are just popping in. Thomas Bertoldi, hi, Thomas,
Oh,
says,
hey,
totally forgot it was time change thing this morning. Yeah, Tom, I realized something was wrong when I noticed I should have been um nice and sleepy and relaxing and enjoying myself for an extra hour. Bonzo Kilborn is here, Russ.
hello, Bonzo.
Um, Bonzo mentions that Campia is two in the back for the industry. I think that Campia is not any different from what you might see on an Entertainment Tonight. That's how I view him, and I think that's totally fine. For his show, that's what he wants to do. He wants, and as far as I'm concerned, Russ, it's more of an Entertainment Tonight style show, which is fun to watch. I mean, Entertainment Tonight still gets thousands, millions, and millions of views when it comes to that, and people go to Entertainment Tonight to see that. That's how I view Campia. What do you think, Russ? Do you think his show is
No,
like
I don't watch it. I don't watch it, as I was saying. Like it. Maybe I should. But it never comes up in my feed. And as I've said many many times, I've stopped listening to so many live streams now for reasons that I've gone into many many times. But which is why I'm always disappointed when Rob doesn't do our observations, because it's literally my only source of live streaming now outside of the boxing stuff, entertainment stuff I'm talking about. So I do need to replace my diet of what's now become hater YouTubers and try to find some sort of channels that are less angry.
all
And
right,
Rob
you know, I
Rob
hear
Rob
you.
scratches that itch, but I need more. I need more Rob.
We need more Rob. I will tell him that. Darth Plato says, "Hey, hey,
Hello,
Darth
Darth
Plato, how
Vader.
are you? Good to see you. I did get your message, Darth Plato. Yes, you and I will be, I guess, watching the conclusion of Masters of the Air on Friday. Guys, we are going to be doing that. Darth Plato, I didn't respond to your email, but I did read it, and thank you, Darth Plato, for reaching out. I do see you're reviewing Shogun as well. It's wonderful to see you doing that too. Um, Irene mentioned she misses Aaron. Yeah, I miss the whole cast
Erin Cummings, yeah, she's lovely.
and Taylor, all of them. They had such a great group. So that's something there as well.
I never saw Erin on the show, but I met her via Vernon Wells, who was big mates with Erin.
Yeah, and there's a number of different things. You guys are saying so many interesting things here. I'm not quite sure whether I understand this. Bonzo says in Shogun, when they seppuku the baby, I was this close to leaving for good. Really didn't like that. Well, that wasn't the only thing in that episode. Let's say there was also a quick beheading, if you will. I don't even know if I'm saying that right, with someone who challenged someone in a village, and we saw the whole thing, right, Russ?
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So this, I think that the reality of what happens if contradict or stand in the way of one of the leaders, we know what happens.
Yeah, yeah.
We know what happens,
I
and
think I think so. That scene was really really shocking. But the fact that you were close to leaving for good, then the scene kind of almost it's done its job, is it? It's an alien world. This shit goes down there. It's horrible, and it's especially horrible when you have Western values, which Blackthorn kind of, even though they're more primitive than our own, he does have those sort of attitudes to it. But the weird thing is, talking about the seppuku scene, I remember in the book and in the 80s version, a big deal was made about the pillowing scene. When Mariko suggested, well, look, you just need to get laid. Well, and he goes, oh, I can't do that, And here it's almost sort of brushed over. But in both the TV show and the book, it's like a huge deal because he's like absolutely mind blown, and that they're even talking about this particular subject. They go, what's the matter with you? Like it's completely natural, like it's good for you. And then she's like, oh, do you want a boy? Then and he's like, oh my god. And they make a whole huge show about it in the 80s version and in the book. Here it's kind of just touched on and then moved on from, and it's utilized in a different way. I think in the book and the 80s version, it's a lever to show his attitude compared to their attitude. Whereas this one, it's used more of a springboard for him to open up more to Mariko about his family, and they've got that common ground. If they both got children and they both have families, and etc. etc. And that sort of warms her up a little bit, and you can see her character start to become closer to his character. And it's from the pillowing scene where that bit sort of springboards off, I think.
Yeah, it's something to think about. And here we have, I just wanted to show some more of the beautiful ladies who are in this show, and we see, beautiful women. And there's kind of a remark made about, obviously, I'm not going to say it's a bad thing to say what he said, because it's his belief about how he talked about, maybe just not being distracted by the pursuits of being with a beautiful woman in the story. But we see so many fun things. And of course, Russ, you knew I would like that scene where the woman kind of like goes after that guy who's obviously never been with a woman ever.
Mm.
And and it's kind of like she essentially makes love to this young man, um and the older man is watching this and he's enjoying this, and the look on his face is the best, because I have the same look on my face. So I think it really is something that also shows that they experience different. One thing I am going to say, and we did see this in the previous series too, but that they experience pleasure and enjoy pleasure too.
Mhm.
And it's important for us to see things like that in a series as well, I think.
Yeah.
um and we are seeing that here. Everything is just so well done. Oh, she's so beautiful.
Mm.
Uh, just enjoying all of it so much, Russ. I haven't finished all of the episodes. I think we're up to episode 3. Russ, you said you were just upset when you got to the end of episode 3.
Yeah, so at the end of episode 3, they have the sort of the diving lesson, and then Toranaga makes his. And I'm not going to ruin it because I saw Irene said she hadn't watched it yet. So whilst this conversation is spoilerific, everyone's seen Shogun and probably everyone's read it, and it's not different. It's not, there are no real curveballs in this so far. Like you've got the scene where they escape from Osaka Castle, and you know how they escape from Osaka Castle. The methodology is a little bit different. Blackthorn's intervention is different, perhaps more understated, but it's the same. It's the same show. But yeah, so the episode comes to an end, and I'm just like, fuck, no, come on, no, please, and I keep going to the box to see. I don't even know what day it comes out, in the hope, that maybe there's been a mistake and they've released maybe 2 episodes, and I kept checking, but no, they didn't.
Yeah, and Stubble says that Hiroko Sanada, he thinks he feels Toshiro Mifune's She's Brilliantly of Toranaga, even if he doesn't have the same gravitas.
That's
He sure is
that's
good
absolutely
looking.
fair. Yeah,
He's,
he's good looking. Yeah,
yeah, he's good looking.
but
Mhm.
I think Stubble, that is 100% fair. I'm not dissing Sonada. I'm just not, because the guy is immense. He's absolutely immense and perfect in this role. And as I was saying before, Stubble, it's like when you've got the 80s one and you've got the 21st century one, they're both awesome. They're both flawless so far. This one's flawless so far, as far as I'm concerned. I'm so hyped about this show, but it's wonderful to have them as companion pieces.
Yeah, and I oh my gosh, you guys are so kind this morning for a performing artist who sends me a $5 super chat here, Russ. Says, just want to donate. I watch Rob's observations religiously. He really is an existential Mr. Rogers. Thankfully, I always learn something from him. Yes. Yes.
Yes,
A performing
yes,
artist. We've all learned so much from Robert. And I think, we've had this pleasure. It's almost like a master class, if you will,
mm,
of engagement. And, it's just so much, I think, enrichment. We always talk about wanting to have a mentor, and I think, perhaps it's not entirely everything you get from a mentor, but he does offer a lot of insight and guidance when people do write in letters, right, Russ? I mean, there's so much that he wants to contribute and discuss with people, and he sees the importance in that.
yeah. I couldn't agree more. Or I just think Rob's enthusiasm for things is just so infectious. And I was talking before about Zack Snyder, how he's talking about one thing, and then in the middle of the sentence, he never complete, like I just did there. He never completes a sentence, right? He always just and then and this and that and that and that. And Rob's kind of the same way. His enthusiasm for things um, is genuine. And I know Rob gets a little bit of heat about his book competition, and is this competition, and is that competition. But one thing I would say about all of that is when Rob's talking about these things, he absolutely believes them and wants them to happen, and really, it's like an idea that he would love to fulfill. But Rob's just got so many things going on that it's difficult to make all of them happen. But you need more people like Rob. He's a genuinely infectiously enthusiastic guy that is a massive nerd, loves his sci-fi, loves his Star Trek, and loves his job. I mean, clearly, like he seems to have a great time when he's doing his YouTube. And if I get out to Los Angeles, I'd love to go and see him actually.
Yeah, and he loves the fandom. I think that he values his fellow collectors and groups of people. You do see him streaming on shows where he
Hmm.
talks about his collections and different shows and all of his passions. And I think that that's so important too,
Mm,
to see somebody like that and to see, the day in the life of, is so wonderful for him to kind of open that up to us
mm.
that way. And I thank you for a
We should
performing
we should just
artist.
share this screen with him. It's basically been like a Rob loving, hasn't it? Like we think you're awesome, Rob. We love you, man. Keep doing what you're doing. You are the number one YouTuber. You're my absolute favorite. I love your positivity. I love everything that you do. More observations, please. I should even join your channel so I could go onto the readers, what is it, the members only podcast, and grill you about something or another. We love you, man. You rule.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think Rob has the same passion and thought for all of us as well. That just adds to it. Thank you so much, performing artist, for the $5 super chat. It's so generous. And thank you, Irene, who says, "Love you guys." Thank you, Irene. We love you too.
We love you too, Irene.
Irene, we are so proud of you and we are here
Mm,
for you. So keep coming back and letting us know what's on your mind in your journey. We are here for you. You are not struggling alone. I assure you, Irene. I certainly do understand. And I thank you for being, so kind to share all of those things with us because you don't have to tell us this. You by sharing, I think it's so important for all of
mhm.
us. Uh, so I also wanted to let's see, there are some other comments that you all have here. I'm kind of losing my thing. Um, yeah, here it is. John Reese Davies has the most wonderful huge belly laugh. It makes me smile every time. Yes. That was
Yeah.
interesting. Darth Plato says he preferred the 80s version, which is very interesting. Thank you so much, Darth Plato. Hey, Freddie Lane is hi, Freddie.
Freddie Lane. I love
He's
it.
a
What's that?
John
What's that
Candy
icon there? Is that GI Joe? I
the
can't really say where
Freddie
I'm
Show. It looks like
looking.
it says the Freddie Show.
All
Hi,
right.
Freddie.
Hello,
So
Freddie.
I love Campia. Wonderful. We're so glad you do. Thank you for sharing that, Freddie. So good to see you. And also, let's see who else we have here. Tanjir Jackson also has his YouTube channel, guys. Make sure you are liking and subscribing to all the creators who are here in the chat. Certainly something to do. Go ahead and support a fellow creator. That's something that I encourage that everybody should be doing these days. Let's see. Um, Stavros says that's Japanese culture for you. Babies aren't spared. Well, I think it was also that time period, right, Russ? The culture, the way things were done, perhaps.
I don't pretend to know. I'm not an expert on medieval Japan and things like that. Basically what I know from watching Shogun. But where Stavros is from, they weren't. Spartans weren't too. They had no truck with tossing you off the into the Tagitas Pass if you weren't up to muster as an infant. They just tossed you off the mountain, and that'd be the end of it. So yes, life was cheap.
Yeah, it's something to think about, and certainly, when we're looking at different cultures and seeing what's going on, we want it's pretty much an accurate description of what happened, and unfortunately, that is something that happened. But I think it would have lost something if we didn't see that happening in the episode, Russ. I think we certainly would have been deprived of the reality of what life was like at that time. Something to think about. Um,
Actually, I have a question for Darth Plato or Stavros and or Stubble, who've all familiar with the book. Anyone that's familiar with the book, right? So in the '80s show, um, there's a bit where the Toranaga wants to know about sort of British culture, and he wants to see a dance, and like Richard Chamberlain sort of does this sea shanty, the Barbary pilots and the da, 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 and he does this thing, and then Mifune sort of does the dance as well. And I'm kind of thinking that the diving scene on the ship replaces that scene, but I can't remember because it's so long since I read the book. So I really hope they have the dancing scene in it, but I don't know. So if you guys know if you think if the diving scene sort of replaced the dancing scene, then let us know in the chat.
Yeah, that's a good question, Russ. And I do want to thank Bonzo Kilborn for his kind words. You're always so nice, Bonzo, who says Anna Sawai is beautiful, but she needs a full movie crew to do what at Positive Fandom does effortlessly. Thank you so much, Bonzo. You are so sweet to say such a nice thing. I do appreciate it. I do make an effort. I do make an effort to look good on screen. So thank you so much, Bonzo. Um, and Zacharat 315 is here. Hi, Zacharat.
Hey, Zachariah.
Uh, Good to see you. Something to think about there. But Russ, I think it is very interesting that for a while it felt as if we weren't getting programming that we could watch and enjoy, but it feels like we're getting a lot of it. 2024 might be the year where things just kind of turn around. I know you were talking about that stream that Robert had, but I'm seeing, I think that this is very interesting year. Maybe it's the first year we're getting productions that might have been made outside of the restrictions that were made during the lockdown. Do you think that's true?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, Hollywood, the industry of Hollywood, I very much feel is taking it. And I'm talking about big Hollywood, the big franchises, the DCs, the Marvels, the Star Wars, the things that we always bitch and moan about. It feels like they're taking a stand in 8 count. They've made questionable decisions, and it's. Do you know what? Oh my god! I Who was I listening to um, about? And someone was talking about this, sort of like the sort of woke Hollywood madness that goes on. Whether you think it's woke or not, I'm just giving you some context. This is what they were talking about at the time. And this guy, and I forget who it was, but he was saying, well, you'd think that they would realize, wouldn't you? You'd think now it's been 10 years of this and they've been trying to go down this route of social engineering and messaging and all that sort of thing. You'd think that they'd know. They're losing money. He said, but they don't. And you can only realize that, he said, when you are there, when you are living in that Hollywood studio bubble. Like it almost sort of harkens back. And I don't know whether this is true or not because I'm not in that bubble. But when the guy was explaining it, it's almost harkened back to that Ricky Gervais speech when he says, "You are in no position to lecture the public on anything. You have no idea what their lives are like. You all flew here in private jets, and you had to get your own because your friends, all of that stuff." So this guy was basically not even postulating; he was giving you his own experience as a matter of fact. Within that bubble, they just don't know. They have no clue what's going on outside, and they think everything is hunky dory. What if you're not in that bubble, if you're not in that studio system, but you've got some money or you're a smaller studio, there are now avenues for smaller films to start garnering some attention. Like we spoke about Land of Bad at length, because that film is absolutely fantastic. And it's not like it's got low rent actors in it. I mean, you've got Russell Crowe in it. You've got Milo, whose no surname I can't. Rocky Jr. is in it. Yeah,
Vertimiglia.
exactly. We're gonna murder it. We're gonna murder it, right? And of course, Hemsworth. Um, so that was great. And then we were talking also about a very low budget movie, One More Shot. And I don't know if you had a chance to watch Lights Out yet, or
I watched about half of it so far. Also a good film. I liked the film so far.
it's yeah. So Lights Out is a film that actually is quite unexpected in how it deals with a pretty hackneyed storyline that I love, that we all love. Like if you see ex special forces underground street fighting ring, you know what you're getting. All right, you're it's exactly that. But Lights Out uh, attacks this from a slightly different angle, and there's a brilliant performance by an actress called Jamie King in it, and she's playing a policewoman in this story. And although the story starts off one way, it then completely turns and goes in another direction, and it's not at all unsatisfying. It's brilliant. It's just not what one would expect from a Frank Grillo movie about underground street fighting with a no, Yorkshire Geek. It's not the Lights Out horror film. It's an action movie with Frank Grillo and Scott Adkins and Jamie King. And Scott Adkins has got a small role, but memorable role in the film. And it's quite funny because it was clearly made at the same time as One More Shot, because he looks exactly like he looks in when they've got the beard and the hair and everything like that. So, but yeah, it's definitely worth your time if you like action movies. And I do. I love action movies. But to your point, um, I think that there's going to be more and more films coming out like this. I I think that these films will start to gain more and more traction as people are basically looking for something different, aren't they? Where's the next Rocky? Are we going to get another Rocky? Are we going to get another Taxi Driver? You know, um, are we going to get another Star Wars? Some would say that poor Mr. Snyder has already tried that, and some to varying degrees of success, depending on where you sit on the Zack Snyder sphere. With his Rebel Moon. But even with Rebel Moon, you love it or hate it, and let's say at least it's an original property or semi-original, given that it's a mishmash of lots of other different things, but it's not based on anything. And he's trying to create a cinematic universe. Jamie King there. He's trying to create a cinematic universe around his Rebel Moon franchise, and more power to him. What's my point? My point is there's more stuff like this happening, and I think it's great. I love superhero movies. Of course I do. Who doesn't love superhero movies? However, it's nice to see some other stuff. There's Scott, and Mickey Pfeiffer's in it as well. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, Mekhi Phifer, he's amazing in this, and he just eases into this role so well. I think there's a lot of performances that come very easy in this film. I think it's something to think about, and now I'm looking forward to the ending since I've only seen half of the film. Russ, it certainly looks so good. It really is, and of course Scott, who always looks incredible,
I was going to
always.
say Frank and Scott are kind of easy on the eye if you're a lady. Let's just put it that way.
It is the truth. They really are. And, I think we see some incredible shots of, I don't know what we see of Scotty Atkins because I haven't gotten to that part yet. But so far, Frank, has not disappointed seeing this conditioned, mature man, which I love to see in a film. It is amazing. Bonzo says that he didn't like the diving, I guess, in Shogun. The guy's 60 and lives on an island. He can't dive really. And Stubble comments about the dancing scene, Russ. The diving and the dancing scene.
Yeah.
Did you read that? I don't know if
Yeah,
you read
no,
that.
this is a question I asked Stubble and Darth Plato, who are more familiar with the book. I read the book so many times, but I was so young when I read it. Um, yeah, so that dancing scene. So this does it's the same role. That's a little bit disappointing because I really thought they would have gone down the Barbary Pirates route because it's such an iconic scene. It's like Rodriguez in the first one, Jonathan Rhys Davies. It's just one of the most iconic things. When you think of Shogun, you think of Wakari Maski, you think of the boiling scene, you think of Rodriguez, and you certainly think of the well, show me the Barbary pirates. I'm a little gutted that it's not in there, but it's not in there. Thank you, guys, for helping me out with that. I much appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So that film, just so you guys know, is called Lights Out, and you can kind of see the poster here, which looks amazing. I love this poster.
It's really good, and it's got a decent cast, and it starts off as a hackneyed idea, but it's a very sweet movie as well, which is quite surprising.
Yeah, and it says on the poster, it says they started the wrong fight, and I'm like,
Mm.
yeah, like, it
Well,
hooks me with
dirty.
that line.
It's dirty. This is a
Yes,
grimy underbelly of Los Angeles story.
yeah,
It's like where when the bribery's in the thousands of dollars, it's that kind of grimy. It's almost like you know what? It's got a bit of a 70s feel to
yes,
it.
yes.
That's what I'd say. It's really good. It's really good, guys. Trust me on this. I think it's available on Netflix or whatnot. Can't remember where I watched it now, but please do check it out. It's only an hour and a half, worth an hour and a half of your time. Give it a review, give it a thumbs up, whatever, because we need these films to make money. That's what we need. Like these small indie movies have kept us, or is it maybe not all of us, but certainly me, has kept me going with a diet of constant B movie entertainment for my entire life. Like we can all talk about the 1980s and the Rambos and the Commandos, but for every Rambo and Commando, there was a Vietnam exploitation film starring Chuck Norris. There were loads and loads and loads. Death Before Dishonor starring Fred Dryer, all those things. And, it's been like that way for 40 years and more power to them. I love them.
I agree, Russ. And it certainly is wonderful that they are chugging out these films that so many of us are enjoying. Thomas mentions that the first episode of Shogun made him feel, whoa, they really hit that feeling of what it's like to be at sea for so long. That was an amazing first episode. Looking forward to just watching. Yeah, Thomas, it has been amazing. And I've been enjoying it myself. Thomas says the terrifying feeling that the ship scene portrayed was also great. I
Mm.
Russ, didn't it feel like some kind of ghost story when you saw the ship come out of the mist and it's all like the sails are all bad and it was like, wow, it almost had, I'm not going to say Pirates of the Caribbean, but it did have this haunting feeling to it where it was like even today if you saw something like that, you'd be like, what? What am
Mm.
I seeing? They really did that scene right, Russ. It was perfect.
Yes, it really was. And there's quite a subtle little scene in there which I didn't pick up. And I'm not going to pretend that I got this. But there's a bit there where Blackthorn just he's in his office, in his cabin, and he eats a bit of an apple. And that's why he's so healthy and the other ones are all sick because he hasn't got scurvy and they all have. And that's never explained in the 80s one. It's not explained here, but that's the reason. But yeah, it looked so epic. It looked.
It did, like,
I
they
just
didn't have to they could have just showed the ship, but they chose to show, like, it in fog, and that added to the mystery and this kind of unveiling, right, Russ? Because a lot of the story is about an unveiling of the mystery of being over there, the mystery of Japan to Westerners, right?
Yeah, and I think so. And I think the colors that the color grading that this show uses, without becoming pretentious or wanky about the color grading in the film, it, it's a little bit less glossy than the 80s one, which is very, 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 very vibrant. And I think the whole vibe of that the first one starts off with the storm, and this one doesn't. It starts off with a death ship essentially, and that just gives the whole. It just gives it this isn't your daddy's Shogun. Let's just put it that way, and it's different, right? And yeah, a word about grumpy bastard Cosmo Jarvis, Anjin Sam Blackthorn. His approach to that character is entirely different. Now, I thought it was going to be similar to Richard Chamberlain. When I was talking about it last week, I thought, oh yeah, but now he's kind of into the story's got going, and he's playing grumpy bastard Blackthorn that swears a lot. And I just think, oh, fuck's sake, it's not like that he's dropping f bombs every couple of seconds, but when they do use the bad language, he goes, "Oh, that's bollocks." It's just he's so good, and he sounds immensely pissed off all the time. I love him. I absolutely love this guy.
Yeah,
He's
he's
fantastic.
his attitude is spot on because that's how you would feel if you were going through this. You're
Mm,
not going to be like all cheerful and then suddenly just snap on and snap off. You know, he really is kind of, I think, on his toes very much, thinking on his toes. And he also looks very good.
mm.
Not that that's the most important thing, but I think,
Well, it kind of
Richard
is if you're an
Chamberlain.
actor. It's one of the most important things if you're going to be a leading man, I would hazard.
Richard Chamberlain is a hard act to follow because if you all remember, he was rocking Thornbirds, he was rocking Shogun, like everything in under the sun. Richard Chamberlain was grabbing and doing well, and
He was a
he was
sex
just,
symbol, hey? Dr. Kildare, I think was that him? He was Dr. Kildare, wasn't he?
I don't remember, but
Yeah, I
he,
think so. I think he was in the late 70s, early 80s. Richard Chamberlain was your DILF. I think he was a bit of a, as far as I remember, especially with the Thornbirds. I remember the Thornbirds because it had nudity and loads of
yeah, he
sex in
was
it.
the priest that everybody wanted to sleep with. Like that's scandalous even saying that today, Russ. But it
Hmm.
was the truth. Like every woman was like,
Mm,
like it was very, very scandalous and yet, incredibly popular.
mm.
Um, Mario Lopez says the Fallout TV show trailer was good, but the Borderlands movie trailer was not. And Fallout's going to be hard to make. Honestly, I was impressed with it. I've watched a lot of Fallout walkthroughs. If you watch the game, guys, if you're a gamer, I have never played Fallout, but I've watched I don't know how many hours of Fallout
Mhm.
on, the Rad Brad and my friend's son who was a gamer before he went into the Navy. Watched a lot of Fallout games. Stubble says the Fallout show may ruin people who collect figures. There are so many potential miniatures. Nuka Cola, here we go. Yeah. Stubble, it might start something. However, I think as much as I enjoyed the Fallout series, we got an Arcane series. That particular one is connected to what is that show? Is it called um what game is that
League
connected to?
of Legends?
I'm sorry?
Is it League of Legends?
Yes, League of Legends,
I don't know. I'm
and
not a gamer, but I'm impressed. I sometimes I amaze even myself.
yeah, and they created, even more figures and jewelry as a result of the Arcane show. In fact, I have a piece of jewel do I have my ring here? It's not a real ring. I didn't spend, like, a whole bunch of money on it, probably, like, maybe $20, but I have one of the rings from the show, um, but it's not handy. If it was literally right here, what am I saying? What I'm saying is you're right, Stubble. People are gonna start collecting even more with this TV series. When that Arcane, animated series came along, I wanted every piece of jewelry that the women were wearing in the show. I wanted to cosplay as some of those characters. I think it's going to be so popular. People are going to be cosplaying even more and just enjoying it. So, Stubble, I think you're right. Mario says, thank you for recommending Land of Bad, one of the best war movies I've seen. And I agree, Mario.
Right, especially in recent times. It's one of the it's honest to God, Mario, if this kicks off a new men on mission thing, where we get some decent money. And someone else is talking about, we'll come to it in a little while. I saw someone mention something else and we'll touch on in a minute. I'm hoping that this is a genre. Uh, 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 what do they call that? A defibrillator. Boom. Let's breathe some life into the man on a mission with machine guns movie. I love them. I can't get enough of them.
Yeah, I think that there is something to be said about it, and I think people want to see it. And I think that we're going to see a lot of very interesting things. For example, Russ, as I told you, and I've said this a million times, but one of the things that really grabbed me about Land of Bad
Mhm.
was seeing was it Vito? I no. Who was the actor in Land of Bad with Liam? Who plays Shug, or he was an
The
older,
leader,
what is his name?
the leader of that was
Yeah,
Milo. Was the sergeant? He was the
it
one that
was
was in.
Milo.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So he played this older, and I'm sure you remember, you also recognize this too, Mario. He plays an older operator, and Liam kind of, falls into this. He's not supposed to be, playing outside of ordering, essentially tagging things with paint, and then they send down the stuff, but now he has to do something else. And I loved how he guided Liam at points in the story where he tells him
Mm,
concentrate, like it was so important because there's literally part where they end up, pretty much with nothing, and all he has is his concentration, right, Russ? All he has is his concentration to get him out of certain situations. I didn't know it was going to go that far, but I think that was something that resonates through the story of how someone can tell you something. You can have someone, a mentor or a teacher in that circumstance, who tells you, listen, this is what you need to do. This is what's going to get you through. You can get through this.
mm.
And I think when Shug was telling him this, I think Shug knew he wasn't going to make it, but he thought that maybe this young guy could get out. I think
Maybe. I think where that actually the best illustration of that actually is right at the beginning of the film, where they come across something and there's real tense atmosphere, and the Green Berets, Delta guys, they're getting ready to go, and Liam says to Milo, what do you want me to do? And the guy looks at him and goes, nothing, stay here. And then they just disappear off into the thing, like the operators that they are, because his job is to laser paint the target and call the drone in and make sure that that's his job. What he's there to do. They make a big deal about him not being a tier one operator. That's kind of, and they're faithful to that all the way through that story.
it's
It's fantastic.
fantastic. It is 100% pure, masculine beauty, and, a toxic male pretty appreciation as far as I'm concerned. This is why we love these operators so much, these men who go out and risk all of this stuff.
Mhm.
And I was really touched by it. I thought, Russ, that it pushed the story forward almost in a way, because sometimes when you get these shows and the story doesn't maybe not always go forward in a way, or the character development isn't exactly what you were hoping for. In this case, he develops as an individual. We see this ability. I think that this young man didn't know he could do all of that successfully, but he had to have somebody who believed that he could. And I thought that was so important. These operators, when they were talking to him and listening to him as he was, you know, they were talking about what it means to be in a combat situation. What are the challenges, and in the end, what do you have? Why it was important for him to have those conversations with these men who have this experience is because he needed to learn that. And that's like an even deeper part with, Russell Crowe on the other end, who
Mm.
knows, what needs to be done and why, and how he needs to guide him. It was just really beautiful seeing, that teamwork together. So that's like this extra bonus of the story, Russ.
Mm.
Um, that really works, and I hope we get a part two.
Do you
Stavros
know?
says
I don't agree. I don't agree. I don't want Land of Bad 2. I just think that was great. That was great. We don't need to see him do something else. I couldn't disagree more. I just think no, that was an Air Force guy that had a mad experience with the special forces, and now he's going to go back to being the drone guy. And Russell Crowe is going to retire, and so and so and so and so. I I fear that you may be right,
well,
but I don't want to see it.
I'm glad that you mentioned that because you make a good point about that. And if it was left alone and we didn't see anything else, it is equally satisfying.
Mm,
I'm not going to say, I trust me, I was completely satisfied with
I'll
this
bet.
film. If I have to say it, if I have to put it that way. And I did want to mention, Stavros says the diving was all a test of cleansing yourself into a samurai. Oh, I like that, Stavros. And I also wanted to mention to and Bonzo, I'm going to get to your question in a second, but before I get to that, Darth Plato says there is a Fallout television series, question mark, and the answer is yes. I'm just going to show you quickly. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I could spend an entire show talking about Fallout, this new TV series. And Darth Plato, I don't know if you played the game. As I said, I haven't actually played this game. You guys have seen me game. I do game, but I haven't ever played the Fallout series. But I've watched so many of the Fallout games on walkthroughs with the Rad Brad, as well as I said, my best friend's son before he went in the Navy.
Mhm.
This trailer is amazing because this particular genre is so unusual. And they just nailed it. It looks so good. I can't really play the whole thing, but it's supposed to be like this world where they have live in a bunker, and I can't play everything else, but the point is that they have technology and then things change. I'm not going to go too deep into the story, but it's a world after this Fallout event. And it just looks so incredible. Darth Vader, do check it out.
I have a question because I have no idea what this is. Like I know I've heard of the game. Is this like a comedy?
No.
No. Is it like a horror? Is it like a serious Walking Dead 28 days later kind of thing? Or what's that one with Pedro Pascal that we just watched about the video game?
Yeah,
Come
it's
on.
not like that.
Right.
It's in future post-apocalyptic Los Angeles brought about by nuclear decimation. Citizens must live in underground bunkers to protect themselves from radiation, mutants, and bandits. So it's like a survival. I'm not going to say horror, but it's a survival post-apocalyptic game.
Mad Max.
Yes, on that order, Mad Max is probably the best one ever made, but this is just so much fun. Like this is a fun game to play,
Hmm.
and there's all sorts of different people involved. So yes, Darth Plato, something to think about. Fallout TV series is coming. Bonzo has a question. Bonzo wants to know, Russ, if you had a chance to see the trailer for the Critical Drinker short film.
Yeah, I did. I watched it. I thought it looked okay. And more power to him. I don't know if I was him, if I'd have put that money into an extended 40-minute half a movie, which is what he's done. It's like a TV episode, or if I really would have gone for it and done a 20-minute banger with the biggest names that I could get. Maybe I would like maybe I could have got Scott Adkins to do it retro, something like that. But look, Rob Rob has opined about this, and I think Rob has a point. And there's something else. This leads me on to something else actually. He's got the resources now to make his own product. Great. That's absolutely fantastic. And let's see more of that going on, because it's one thing to sit and complain about everything that's wrong. But there's a guy now, whether you agree with him or not, and I think his editorials are fantastic, and broadly I agree with his stance on pretty much everything he does. I just don't agree with the delivery anymore. However, he's putting his cock on the block, isn't he? He's because you know it, what? Have you not heard that one before?
No.
Oh, okay. But he's putting himself out there, isn't he? Is what I'm. Pull yourself
Yes.
together, Rita. Goodness me, stop it! Trying to make a serious point here. Um, he's got the courage of his convictions. So you've got that, and this could be awesome or this could be terrible. Um, I mean, I'm sure his YouTube channel will survive a terrible movie, but let's hope it's not terrible. Let's hope it's brilliant. Let's hope that this sort of thing happens more, because you know, like Rob, and I'm nothing like Rob, but like Rob, I want everything to be good. I do. I really want things to be excited about stuff. And if this turns out great, fantastic. But I'll tell you what did turn out great. And I literally just watched this before I came online here. There is a new ish Alien fan film out,
Yes.
and it is called No Man's Land. And it is an Australian fan film. And these guys have got some money, right? Because this looks great. It looks absolutely great. There are a few really, really, really fun nods to the future Alien franchise in it, but it is set in Turkey in World War One. So
Wow.
the aesthetic of No Man's Land, most of it takes place during the day, and it has this real sort of Gallipoli um, color grading and the sun and the Aussie soldiers, and The action is pretty good. You know, it's a fan film. They haven't got millions upon millions upon millions. There are a few decisions that they make which I don't necessarily agree with. I didn't like. I would have maybe if it had been me, but it wasn't me. They've done it. This fan film is so good, and the concept of it, and the stuff that they've kind of pilfered from other movies and put in there, which means if you know, you know, and if you don't know, you don't know. Um, but like, I don't want to say too much about it because there's a reveal in there, and I just thought that is great because you're going into it when you find out where that what they're about to head into, you are only expecting one thing, and they subvert that expectation with something else, and it's really, really good for a fan film, half an hour fan film. Guys, please check it out. It is called No Man's Land. It's on YouTube. Half an hour. It's a half an hour well spent. The performances in it are brilliant. The music in it is brilliant. The special effects in it are brilliant. It's just, you know. So to answer the question about the Drinkers film, people have been saying this for a long, long time, haven't they? They've been saying, you know, we've now got the wherewith. There it is. Yeah, it's fantastic. That's the opening shot. It's really great. No, it's not the opening shot. Don't show the opening shot because like that sets the whole thing up. Um, yeah, people have the wherewithal to do this stuff now, and with a little bit of money and a lot of mates and a little bit of passion, you can go out there and start doing this stuff yourself. So I love that they got the Australian reenactors in to do this because that does give it a. I mean, okay, I guess this particular shot you've chosen, maybe he's the chef of the battalion, but by and large, they really because they used all these reenactors and they had all of the authentic gear, all the authentic World War I kit, because reenactors are famous for authenticity. It looked perfect. It's really good, and I really love they use the sort of visual metaphor of ants a lot because you know you're watching an alien film. They don't know they're in an alien film, but you know what you're watching. So there's lots of shots of ants, like where there's a brilliant shot where there's discarded shell casings and ants running around it. So yeah, it's just like little visual ticks like that. It's really really good.
So is it like Predators where you have the group is assembled and they don't know that they're going to have to fight against a predator?
No, it's nothing like Predators.
Okay.
It's set in World War I,
Well, you did
and
say this to me already.
yeah, it's set in World War I, and how it starts off is the Aussies are in one trench and the Turks are in another trench, but you find out right at the beginning that nothing's happened for 2 days, so they go over the top, you know, with the whistles and everything, you know. You get this really brilliant shot of all these Australian soldiers going over the top and all that, and I'm not going to say any more because this is it's great. It's really really great. And you know, if you're an Alien fan, if you like those movies, then this does it no disservice. I imagine this would be it could take place in the Alien universe. I know people don't like the fact that aliens been on Earth and all that kind of thing, but you could put it in there, or you could just say this is a what if story.
No, I can't wait to watch this. It looks amazing. It looks very professional.
Oh, it
Um,
is. It really
yeah,
does. Yeah.
I'm excited to see this, Russ, and I'm so glad you brought this to our attention. And I put the link to the movie in the chat so you guys could go ahead and see where it is. Certainly, I'm going to check it out. And after I watch it, I certainly will talk to you about it. You got so excited about it, Russ, and I know if you like it, it must be amazing.
Yeah, well, I thought it was. I mean, you know, my taste is subjective, isn't it? But I love the Alien franchise. I'm so do you know what? I was really cold on Noah Hawley. Actually, I was just thinking, oh, what he's going to now start messing around with the bloody law, and he's doing this and he's doing that. Tja, screw Noah Hawley. I thought to myself, arms folded, fuck this guy. I'm not interested. And then he started talking about it. And then he said the magical words to me was, well, you know, I watched Prometheus and I'm thinking, why have they got all this, you know, Apple Store technology? Because that's not what this takes place before Aliens. No, he said, no, we've gone for the retro future, chunky, CRT tellies and all that. And I just thought, yes, that's the aesthetic. That's the aliens aesthetic. That's the Event Horizon aesthetic. That's the Outland aesthetic. That's what you want from your post-industrial sci-fi oil refinery story of aliens. That's what you want. You want that stuff. So I've gone from hater to lover. I'm thinking, okay, well, I really wanted this to be good, and I didn't like what he had to say. I'm disappointed, and then he comes out with more information now that he's allowed to say more. And you have got me on board, Mr. Hawley, as has Fede Alvarez, who's some people who were in the film. The one guy was saying, "I've seen it." He said it's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting what happens to people in this movie. And you're like, yeah, it's an alien movie. Great, because that's what it is, disgusting what happens to people. And we haven't been shocked by an alien movie since 1986, right? But now apparently we're going to be shocked and disgusted in the same way that we were when John Hurt had his Nadir moment and all of that stuff. So I'm excited, and things like this going on in the background shows that the the fans are still there, the passion is still there. This film's got some really great one, really, especially one that just jumps out at you. So many good nods, but they don't overdo it. It's not like they're quoting every line from every single Alien film or anything like that. No, don't show it. You're going to give it all away. You got to
Oh,
let people.
okay, okay. I
You
won't
got
show
you
it.
got to let you got to let people watch this. You got to, because that's yeah. Don't just go watch it, guys. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch this, and it's so exciting and so wonderful to get something like this, so rare. So much effort gets put into these films, and Retro Norgo says, "I like the idea of putting our efforts towards creating art ourselves. It's not easy, but it's a great chance to make a difference." Agreed, Retro.
Yeah, it's just from getting the money. I'm doing a thing at the moment. They costed it about 1.5 million, and I just hope we can raise that money because I'm so excited about this story. It only took me a couple of weeks to write it. I've been talking to talent about it. I got producers on board for it. Everything seems to be going in the right direction. We just need all we need is 1.5 million pounds. Please, Lord, if you can provide 1.5 million pounds, I'd be great. But yeah, you're absolutely right, Retro. And if I had the means, if I had 1.5 million pounds, I would go and fund this movie because I believe in it. I'm very happy with the story that I wrote. People that have read it so far have said that it's pretty good. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, and Mario says, "Imagine what could be done if all of these creative and wise YouTubers could make a new film studio."
Well, why
Something
not? This is what
about.
the Daily Wire have done, right? Why
Mhm.
not? That's actually a brilliant idea, Mario. I mean, these guys aren't short of a few quid, are they? Maybe they should all put some money together and make an independent movie. Hey, they should fund mine. If they can find 1.5 million, I'll make them a film that isn't woke. There you go.
Exactly. And Bonzo says, "A positive fandom. Are you going to SoCal this year? If so, bring Russ." Well, I am going to be in Southern California this year in July. I don't know what Russ's plans are, but Russ will probably make it out to California at some point, right, Russ?
I was going to go in a couple of days actually because I'm over in the States in 9 days' time with the lovely Wendy. And she said, "Like, well, you've got a day off. Is it Cesar Chavez Day or something like that? You've got coming up. It's like a bank holiday weekend, we would call it." And she's like, "We should do something." I said, "Well, can we go to Los Angeles?" She goes, "No, I've just been to Los Angeles." I'm like, "Yeah, but I've never been to Los Angeles, so we may go, we may not, but I'd love to see it. Yeah, and if I'm going, you guys will be the first to know."
It sounds so exciting. I hope you do get to go there, and just enjoy it, and just have so much fun. Um,
Pounds, Bonzo, pounds, not dollars. I think it's near $2 million.
and Bonzo's checking out his accountant to make sure he can get that in order. And um, uh, I'm trying to find the. I couldn't find. I had it handy, but I lost it. It's someone's comments about the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, which I've been looking forward to for a long
Hmm.
time. And certainly it does have Richardson and
I was going to
um,
say it's going to be a hard watch for you when it's got Alan Richard and Henry Cavill in it,
yeah,
and
this
and isn't John Cena in it as well? Was
Yes,
he? It,
I'm not sure. Let's see who else is in this list of actors. A British military recruits a small group of highly skilled soldiers to strike against German forces behind enemy lines in World War II. Of course, it's a Guy Ritchie film. And look, I Eiza Gonzalez is in it. Henry Cavill, Alan Richardson. Um, who else do we have on here?
Carrie Elwes, Princess Bride.
Yes. Uh,
Henry Golding. He's a British
Yes.
actor.
Yes. Some amazing actors. Maybe he's in it, and it's farther down on the list,
I like
but
Till Schweiger as well. He's been in some bangers.
he's been fantastic. Yes, he has been in some fantastic films. This whole cast looks amazing, Russ, and
Mhm.
I think it's gonna be such a fantastic film. This was the one I got mixed up with Argyle because I was kept looking at Argyle and I'm like, "Isn't Alan Richardson supposed to be in this?" And I realized that that's a different film that Henry Cavill was in. This is the film. This is the film,
Mhm.
that I was so excited about, that's gonna be just remarkable, and I can't wait to see this. So yes, a performing artist, you are correct. This is a film that I just can't stop thinking about. And trust me, when I see it, you will know. You will
Mm.
know it's going to be amazing, coming up, Russ. So many amazing movies down the pike. We are so lucky to be getting, as I said, these films coming out now. Before we end the show, Russ, was there anything else that's on your mind that you would
Yeah,
like
there
to
is actually. I saw Irene mention she loves Chuck Norris. So,
say?
as my parting gift to you, Irene, I'll give you a couple of Chuck Norris jokes that I heard recently. Which what was the one? Um, Guns sleep with Chuck Norris under their pillow. It's just cracked me up. And why? It just kills me every time. Sorry. Carry on. Oh my god. And what was the other one? um, oh, Chuck Norris can judge a book by its cover. Oh god, it's devolved. I apologise.
It's
I
all good, it's all good, I like that.
apologise.
Stavros says, "What a perfect stream, love the mixture of news and opinions today." Well, thank you, Stavros. We enjoyed, every minute of it. Norwegian Kryptonian says, "Have you guys seen Damsel on Netflix?" I have not.
I've seen of it. Uh it's what's her name from Stranger Things? Millie Bobby Brown, is that her name? The number 11. She's
Yeah.
in it. It's like I think it's a fantasy show. No, I'm not on the fucking piss. I'm gonna go on the piss afterwards, Bonzo. Um, yes, no, I was on the piss last night, but not today. Yeah, no, I think it's like a Dungeons and Dragons fantasy-esque show from what I've seen of it. But no, I haven't yet seen it. Uh, but maybe I will.
Yeah, something to think about going forward, and just so many amazing things. I also want to thank again for performing artists for the $5 super chat. Is so generous, and I so appreciate that. Thank you so much for being so kind here. And it's just really going to make such a big difference, as well as Irene
Mm.
for her $5 super chat that says, "I love you guys." We love you too, Irene. This has been such a phenomenal show today, Russ. Russ, where can people find you?
I'll be hanging out here, or you can always drop me a line, which some of you have at contact
Mhm.
at russellwhitfield.com. But more importantly, where can they find you, RM?
Well, you guys can always find me here on Positive Fandom. Sometimes you can find me on the Burnettwork as well, on Lorena Creole's channel, and of course on my new channel, Roman Empire Matters, which, by the way, I have a lot of episodes that I have not uploaded yet, but I was waiting till April and May, to be honest with you, when I don't even know whether I can stream on those months. But let's see how the reception is, where I will be, Russ. I have no idea what reception is going to be like during those two
Hmm.
months. However, I certainly will be thinking about
Excuse me.
having some content ready for that to go. I want to thank Tom Jr. Jackson, a moderator, collaborator, and good friend. We are all good people for being here as always, guys. Thank you so much, Tom, for everything. And Mario says he's going to watch that Alien film right now, guys. It was such a pleasure to see all of you. Great to see you too, Retro Nerd Girl. Um, and that old Yorkshire Geek is going to be doodling on his channel. He's quite a talented artist.
Yeah, he's
Um,
amazing. Go and
yeah,
check it out, guys.
absolutely. Something to think about. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here today, guys. And please do check out Russ's Amazon
Thank
storefront.
you.
um, Check out his Gladiatrix series and so much more that he has there, guys. And remember, I'm going to be finishing up Masters of the Air with Darth Plato probably this Friday. I don't think the last episode has come out. It might be Friday that the last episode has come out, but I certainly will be doing that. And guys, remember, I probably will be doing a Oscar wrap up with Catherine Cook also as well. So that's coming up. But remember, guys, no matter where you are in the galaxy, always remember to please be kind. Take care, everybody.
See you later, everyone. Thanks for watching. Bye bye. Bye bye.